strawberry wine from fresh strawberries. Okay, today on Smoking and Drinking, we're going to do something that I've been kind of looking forward to doing for a while. We're going to make strawberry wine. We have 6 pounds of fresh strawberries that I put in the freezer for a couple days to help break down the cell walls. And we've got ourselves a masher. We are going to put these in a bucket, fermentation bucket, and I would like to know how much juice I'm getting out of it. So we're going to mash them, pour off the juice to measure, and then we'll know how much water to add because we'll have a lot of displacement here. I've got it's advertised as a 1.5 gallon jug. It's not, it's more like 1.25 gallons to the very top. We're going to fill it about to the neck. Hopefully we don't fill it too full. If we do, if it's not big enough, we'll use the fermentation bucket. Those work too. We're going to get started, and we are going to have, like I said, 6 pounds of fresh strawberries crushed. We are going to add 2 pounds of pure cane granulated sugar, 5 grams of fermento, which is a yeast nutrient to help the yeast. We're going to add half a teaspoon of North Mountain pectic enzyme to help break down the cells further and release all of the sugars in the fruit. We are going to add half a teaspoon of wine tannin, because even though you'll see I have the leaves still on there and the stems, it won't provide a lot of tannin. So we're going to add some wine tannin, powdered wine tannin. We are going to add North Mountain acid blend to help control that and balance the acidity level out. We'll probably end up around 12%, 10 to 12% alcohol. And once we've crushed the strawberries and measured off about how much juice we're going to get out of that, we're going to put the strawberries in a brew bag. It's just a mesh bag. I hope that's big enough. You don't have to do that. We could put the strawberries right into the fermenter. Just makes it easier when it comes time to ferment or to rack off of the strawberries. They do tend to swell up a little bit. We may have more than we can deal with here. We may have to use the 2-gallon fermentation bucket, but that's fine too. Those work. I've used them before. So let's get started. We are going to put the strawberries in our bucket that we will be using for crushing. We're not going to step on them like in the old days with the grapes. That is not mold, that's frost. They're still a little frozen. We'll just get some in there and get to mashing. Breaking them down and mashing them, that helps the yeast get to the sugars a little faster, a little easier. It doesn't stress them out. So we'll give them a little mash. They're very soft. Strawberries, as you know, are very tender. So it's not going to take much to mash them. We're not going to get a lot of juice out of this. So we are going to have to add most of a gallon of water. But we'll just have to see. I made a strawberry wine another time, and I actually used strawberry jam or strawberry preserves. You can see there's actually quite a bit of juice in there already, so we'll try and keep that in the bowl. Yeah, I made strawberry wine out of strawberry preserves. It was delicious. Believe it or not, it worked great. So this should work well too, maybe even a little better. We shall see. But let's get more of these mashed up. You don't need to watch me do all of this mashing. I am going to give you a peek of what that looks like, in case everybody knows what strawberries looks like, but you might be curious as to the a little shot of what we got going on in the bucket. So yeah, we're gonna get a little juice out of there. Get a better shot of that. There we go. All my stuff is going to be sticky from strawberries. I'll just have to lick my fingers later. I love strawberries. Reminds me of summertime. And strawberry jam, strawberry preserves, strawberry syrup on my ice cream. I love strawberries. Okay, we got pretty good mash there. Next, we need to get that into the fermenter. It's really, like I said, we're mostly going to guess at our volumes here because it's not all that important. But there are a lot of stems and leaves in the juice, so we're going to try this. We'll see how this goes. This may end up being a real mess. We may have to get a spoon and spoon out of this bucket into the fermenter, but I want to catch those leaves and stems. Try and keep as much in the brew bag and out of the brew. It just makes it easier when we go to racking off in a week or two. All right, so there's a tiny little bit of juice there, probably not even a quarter cup. All right, now we're going to try to get this in here without making a mess, without losing my brew bag into the jar. Slow and steady. Try and keep it all contained. Let me know in the comments if you've done this or if you have suggestions. See things that I'm doing clumsily that you might have a better way. Or if there's some other style of wine you'd like to see me make, leave a comment. And I try to answer comments as quickly as I can. I answer all comments. And, I like to hear from you. You are what I'm doing this for. You are my audience. And hopefully we're all having fun together here. Okay, my bag is starting to fall into the fermenter, so I'm going to try pull that out a little bit. It's starting to get a little heavy. There we go. Definitely wants to fall in. All right, we've got our measuring cup here. Tear that out. We'll go 2 pounds in the measuring cup. It's about 4 1/3 cups. Makes 2 pounds. Let me double check my notes and make sure that's what we used last time. Yes, 2 pounds of sugar. You might say, wow, that's a lot of sugar. And it is. But that's what the yeast consumes to make alcohol. We may stop a little short of 2 pounds. We may just go 4 cups and call it good. Because the strawberries should have a fair amount of sugar in them. There's 2 pounds right there. Nailed it. So, I just realized it's going to be fun stirring this with that brew bag in there. Should have, I think what I'm going to do is mix the sugar in the pitcher of water so that it's dissolved. We want to make sure it's dissolved. We don't want a lot of granules in there because we won't get an accurate gravity reading. So I'll get the pitcher of water, and we'll mix it up in there. Okay, after doing some quick math and estimation in my head, I realized this fermentation jar is not going to work for us. It is just not going to, we're not going to be able to get a gallon of water in there. And if we're going to use 2 pounds of sugar, we really need a gallon of water. So we're going to use the bucket, and The hardest part's going to be getting that brew bag back out of this jar, but we will do that, and we'll just figure it out. It'll come out. It's just going to be tricky. There's a lot of strawberries there. It may not come out. I may have to empty the bag. Should have planned ahead a little better. I kind of thought that this jar may not be big enough. I should have trusted my instincts and went with the bucket. That's okay. Adapt. We are nothing if not flexible. So we are going to put it back in the bowl. We may end up getting the rest of that strawberry mash anyway, because we're not going to worry about the amount of space we have as much. Okay. It takes a lot of fruit to get what you're hoping to get out of it. There's not a lot of sugar, which is why we're adding 2 pounds of sugar, but you really want to have the flavor too, so it takes a lot of strawberries. All right, there we go. That's a lovely sound, isn't it? Okay. Got it in our bucket. This bucket was sanitized in Star San, so we are okay there. Everything was sanitized in the Star San solution in our sanitizing tub right there. So we don't have to worry about getting an infection in our brew or spoilage, anything like that. I don't know if you can hear it or not. Neighbor's dog is not happy about something. Probably mad because he doesn't get any wine. Okay. Got that. Tie off our bag again. Here we go again. It's not the end of the world if it comes untied. We just have to work a little harder to get all the leavings out of there. Okay, yeah, there's about 3/4 of a cup, maybe a cup there. I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to put a gallon of water in there and call it good. But what we are going to do is mix our sugar water in there to get all that nice juice out of there. This is a mess, but that's why we have towels and tablecloths and all that good stuff. So let's take our gallon of water. Try not to make a huge mess. Let's do this left-handed. Keep the water in the vessels. Messy Marvin. This way I can get the sugar dissolved more easily. I'll stir this baby. Get all that sugar dissolved in there, and we'll have a good, accurate reading. Try and keep the sugar in the fermenter. These Pyrex jars don't pour real nice. That's a lot of sugar. That's what makes it good. And we just give it all a real good stir. You can see all that sugar on the bottom. And get all the sugar and the remaining strawberry juice all mixed up in there real good. I'm excited. I can't wait for this. It's going to be delicious. I have one more bottle in the wine rack. I might have to try that tonight. Haven't had any in a while. It's been about a year since I made the strawberry jam wine. It's really good though. You wouldn't think you could make a good wine out of a strawberry jam or strawberry preserves, but it turned out real nice. And let that sit for a minute. Let's make sure if there's any granules in there, they settle to the bottom and I can tell. So some other ingredients we're going to have to add, as I said, the wine tannin, acid blend, and the pectic enzyme. We'll go ahead and start on those. And we'll start with the pectic enzyme, half a teaspoon per gallon. I have a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon, but I'm just going to estimate. That will all dissolve. And that helps break up the cell walls of the fruit and release all of that natural sugar. And as I said, there's not a lot of tannin in the stems and leaves, so we're going to add a half a teaspoon of powdered wine tannin. And the acid blend helps equalize the acid level. Don't want it too acidic. And I should see what the recommended amount is for that. And it says 1 teaspoon per gallon. So we add a teaspoon of acid blend. And we don't need to worry about that being dissolved for the gravity reading. It won't affect it. Let's make sure I can see in the bottom. There's not a lot of sugar laying in the bottom, sitting in the bottom. So I think we've got it pretty well dissolved. That's a good thing. As you can see, a gallon of water is far greater than, this is really only about 1.25 gallons of a fermenter. So there was no way we were going to make that work. All right, so let's get, you know what we're going to do? We're going to add our Fermento as well. Fermento is a yeast nutrient, and it helps the yeast because sometimes there isn't a lot of nutrients in the ingredients that you have in there. We're going to do 5 grams, which is about 1 teaspoon. And I should have just put it right in there. I usually mix it in a little dish and make sure all the clumps are out. I could have done that right there in that jar. That's okay. It's there. I'm going to have to do it anyway because I'm out of water. That's okay. We are just... Sometimes it looks like we're making it up as we go along. Sometimes we are. All right, there we go. 5 grams is, I used to only do 2 grams of Fermento, and I just didn't feel like there was enough nutrients in most of the brews. So I increased it to 5 grams. Seems to have helped. I don't have as many stalls. Usually ferments pretty quickly. So now we just need to stir that up again. Try and get some of the clumps out of there. Not too worried about it. The clumps will break up eventually. Okay, let's get that into the fermenting bucket. And then the other tricky part will be taking gravity reading, because we have to work around the brew bag of strawberries. Oh yeah, good choice going with the fermentation bucket. We are almost going to be full on that baby. All right. Our gravity reading may be just slightly off anyway because we have just slightly more than 1 gallon. The lid fell off of the fermentation tub, or the sanitization tub. Wind is kicking up a little bit. Okay, we'll wait to add our final ingredient. Let's take a reading. We'll give that a little more of a mix here. We had some strawberry juice on the bottom. We want to make sure it's all equally mixed. We have a good homogeneous mix. I guess that's the word, homogeneous. Okay, and then when you use a brew bag or fruit, you want to make sure that occasionally you push that down so that it doesn't dry out. It's not quite as bad with a brew bag because you just push the whole bag down. But if you just put the fruit in there, they have what they call the fruit cap on the top. It tends to dry out and get moldy, so you want to push that down every day. I usually give the buckets a swirl, and that helps keep everything moist. Okay. Our specific gravity is 1.070. This is going to be a high ABV. Although, like I said, the readings, well, they're estimates, first of all, unless you have specific equipment. You can't get exact, but also we don't have exactly a gallon, so our it's just an estimate. Doesn't really matter. Still tastes great whether it's 12% or 15%. All right, and then the final ingredient is the yeast. We are using Lalvin 71B, and we're going to use a whole packet. Lalvin 71B is a great fermenting yeast. It is, I call it the workhorse. It just chews through any brew that you've got. So I'm going to try and keep it off of the brew bag. I'll go ahead and mix it up anyway, but try and get it into the must as much as we can so that none of the lives are lost on the brew bag. Just go ahead. See, it's going to end up on the brew bag anyway. It'll all get in there. It finds a way. Nature finds a way. I'm just getting more on my spoon than anything. So it's probably ill-conceived doing that. But let's take some notes because we want to know how to do this. Is the first time, so we want to know how to do it again if we want to make it again. This is strawberry wine. And today's date. And the starting gravity, 1.070. And we added 6 pounds of fresh strawberries, frozen. We added a gallon of water. We added half a teaspoon of pectic enzyme, half a teaspoon of wine tannin, powdered wine tannin, and 1 teaspoon of acid blend. And Lalvin 71B. Oh, and can't forget the yeast nutrient. We added 5 grams of Fermento. Okay, now we just need to get the lid on the bucket and an airlock. So, hadn't planned on using it. I have to go get the lid. Okay, we've got our lid for our 2-gallon fermentation bucket. Snap that down. There is a rubber seal on the inside, so that seals that off. These don't always seal the greatest. So if there's not a lot of activity in the airlock, don't worry. There may be a little bit of a leak around the seal. It won't be enough to allow any oxygen or bad things in because it's going to start producing carbon dioxide, and that will push all of the oxygen out because carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen. So it pushes the oxygen out. Okay, so I forgot to add. I always like to add what kind of fermenter we used. I didn't write it on my notes the first time, so there you see. Plus I was using jam preserves rather than actual fruit, but I want to write that on there. 2-gallon fermentation bucket. Okay, I will tape that onto the bucket so I know what's in there. I will check it, probably once a day just to make sure that fruit doesn't dry out and get moldy, but I'm not too worried about it. And we'll check back in a week or so when that the airlock activity stops. It's already starting to create some pressure there, so it's actually negative pressure, so who knows what's doing. Is probably heat. It's a little warm. It's about 78 degrees or so, I'm guessing. All right, we'll check back in a week. We're back with the strawberry wine made from fresh strawberries. It's been 3 weeks. Why? Well, life kind of got in the way, but if you remember, we were making wine from about 4 pounds or 6 pounds, 6 pounds of fresh strawberries that we had frozen. And today we are going to, well, I will say I took the strawberries out of the mesh bag about a week ago. I didn't want them to start to mold. As you can see on the video here, we just took the mesh bag out and resealed it. So hopefully that will have settled out a little bit, and it's time to rack to narrow mouth fermenter. As you can see, I've got my sanitization bucket here. All of my tools have been sanitized. We've got our hydrometer and our cylinder. Get some of this out of the way a little bit. We'll go ahead and take a reading, see where we're at. You see we've got our 2-gallon bucket that we had to go to because we had just too much volume to fit everything in there. So we're going to, let me get the other camera and we'll show you what we got there. As you can see, we've removed the bag and we have quite a bit of volume there. We've still got probably close to 1.5 gallons. So we're going to probably need more than just the 1-gallon fermenter, but we'll go ahead and get started here and take a reading. Looks fairly clear. A lot of that, the residue and the solids from the strawberries looks to have settled quite a bit, so that's a good thing. And we get a fairly clean rack out of this. Oh yeah. Gently put the rest of that back in there. Always being careful not to oxidize. When we started, we were at specific gravity of 1.070. That was 3 weeks ago, and as expected, it has gone to 992. So it is dry. It is dry and it is pretty clear, so I'm liking what I'm seeing here. So let's record that in our notes. We need today's date. We're going to call that our final gravity, even though we'll let it sit for a few days just to be sure. That is 0.992. That is pretty dry. Okay, so we are ready to rack. As you can see, we need to get this higher than this. Let's move this over here for now. So we have another bucket that we will set this on top of to elevate it so that we can get our siphon going. Always need to have your supply vessel higher than your target vessel. So let's get our auto siphon hooked up. There we go. Let's get that in there and go down about. We have so much extra hose here. I said last time I was going to trim some of this off, and I didn't do that. Go down about halfway. Give it a few pumps until the siphon starts. We have siphon. I'm just gonna hold it. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my handy clip on here. Should have did that first. And put this on the side of the bucket because we are gonna need another vessel. We are well over a gallon here. I'll be right back with another vessel. Get everything sanitized here. I don't think we're going to fill 2 of these, so I will probably have to re-rack that into about a half-gallon jar, but I'll have to get that out of storage. But it could be a little higher. It's gotten kind of slow, but that's okay. We don't need to be in a hurry. Fermentation is stopped, so we can bring it up pretty far up to the neck so that we can prevent oxidization. I'm going to pull that out because there is a fair amount in the tube. That ought to do. Let's set this back in. I'm just going to hold this for now. We'll set this aside. Bring in our second vessel. This is what happens sometimes when you use fresh fruit. At least for me, sometimes I end up with a lot more than a gallon. That's just means more wine to drink. Okay, let's get our siphon. Yeah, this one may be a little cloudier. I kind of disturbed the lees on the bottom. We're getting pretty close. We've got a full gallon plus a little extra there. We should get 5 good bottles out of this fermentation vessel. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll have to move this one to about a half-gallon or 2-quart vessel so that we don't have to worry about oxidation. I am going to stop because we're getting all kinds of floaties, and that's with strawberry pieces and things like that. We got most of that out of there. So we'll just get the rest of this into here. And we might even just put that in a quart jar. Okay. Slide that aside a little bit. Let's cover that for now. Just keep all the baddies out of it. Let's get some sanitization liquid in our airlock. Still want to have an airlock to keep all the oxygen and possible bugs and anything else you might get in there out. Where is the cap? There it is. Remember, we always put it in the stopper first, then into the fermenter. Now, it'd been sitting for quite a while, like I said, 3 weeks, so it did not seem very gassy. You notice there weren't a lot of bubbles as we were racking, so I don't really think we need to degas. We might see a little bit of activity in the airlock. That would be any excess carbon dioxide still in there, but I don't expect to see much in there. But we'll let that sit for a day or two, and we'll take another reading and make sure it's stopped. But I am almost positive it stopped at 0.992. I've never seen it go a whole lot lower. So we'll check back in a couple days. You know what? We forgot about this. And what we're going to do with this is take a little taste. Might have to give some of that to Mrs. Smoking and Drinking since we have so much there, but it smells like strawberry wine. It's got a nice mellow flavor or smell to it. You can smell a little bit of that alcohol. Well, the other thing we need to do is calculate our ABV. Oh, that's nice. It's a little tart. It's not real sweet. Again, it's very dry. We may want to back sweeten. Probably will, because that's pretty dry for a strawberry wine. Strawberry wine's usually a little sweeter, so we'll probably back sweeten with a non-fermentable sugar like allulose or something like that. So probably do that next time. All right, check back in. For you, it'll just be a minute. For us, a couple days. Let's calculate that ABV while we're here. So our starting gravity was 1.070 minus our ending gravity of 0.992 equals 0.078 times a multiplier of 135 equals 10.5%. So we have about a 10.5% ABV. That's not bad. That's a nice, fairly strong, not real strong, but strawberry wine usually isn't very high in alcohol content. So that's right about where we need to be. So we'll check back. Okay, it's been about 3 days with the strawberry wine made from fresh strawberries. I did put this in the refrigerator to cold crash it, try and get it to clear a little more. It seemed to work pretty well. As you remember, we were a little more than a gallon. We were about a gallon and a half. That one hasn't cleared as well yet because it was the bottom of the bucket. So we're not going to do anything with that one today. We're going to let that one set. This one we're going to rack to a pitcher, and then we are going to back sweeten a little bit. As you recall, it went completely dry. Final gravity was 0.992, so that is very dry. So first thing we need to do is rack to a pitcher, and then once we get it back sweetened to our liking, we will rack to bottles. You see I have 5 750 milliliter bottles here, and we will cork these bottles. These are not screw tops. So all of this has been sanitized in the sanitization bucket. As you can see, I've got the star sand there. Got my bucket for elevation. Let's get started. First thing we're going to do, take a reading, just because that's what we do. Got my cylinder and my hydrometer. I know it's not going to go any lower, but we'll check it again. If you do things consistently every time, then you know you can do it without even thinking about it, and you don't make as many mistakes that way. So we take the readings. Doesn't cost anything to take a reading. just takes a little time. Time I have right now. So, okay. Set that aside for now. And it looks like, give it a spin to get some of the bubbles off of there. We are setting still at 992. So exactly where it was 3 days ago. So we can take this out, pour this into our sanitized pitcher, because that's where it's all headed next. Trying to pour gently so as not to create a lot of bubbles and risking oxidization. I think we're done with that for today, so we put that in the sanitization bucket. And we need to elevate our wine. Always want to be as careful and gentle as you can when you're moving your wine so that you don't stir up the lees on the bottom. There isn't a lot in there. A little bit in there. We may use the cap on our auto siphon just because it seems to be there's a fair amount settled down there. So we've got more than a gallon, so we can spare a little loss. We just don't want floaties in our wine. Okay. Put that down in the pitcher. Auto siphon halfway down in the fermentation vessel. Give it 3 or 4 pumps to get it started. We've got a siphon going, and we'll just rack this to the pitcher, and we'll be back in a second. All right, got that into the pitcher, and we got a full gallon there. So put the auto siphon back into the sanitizing bucket. We're going to need that in a minute, but we need to take a little taste. And we know that it's dry, so we're going to need to sweeten it. Yep, that's pretty dry. So, all right, what we're going to use to back sweeten is Anthony's natural erythritol sweetener. Why are we using that? Because it is a non-fermentable sugar, non-fermentable sweetener. We don't want this to start up fermenting again, or it'll just go back to dry and raise the alcohol level, which would be all right to raise the alcohol level when we're trying to sweeten this. So we are going to use a non-fermentable, and we're going to start, I'm almost out, so we may not get to go too sweet, but that's okay. I don't like it too sweet anyway. And this you just kind of do a little bit, and then you taste it, and you do a little more, and you taste it until you like it. There's no real science that I use to get there. So 1 tablespoon is about 13 grams of sweetener. So I'm just going to put that in the pitcher, and we'll stir it up to make sure it gets completely mixed. Another nice thing about the sweeteners, they dissolve very quickly, so you don't have to worry about not getting it mixed in there real good. Once you've got it stirred up real good and you don't feel or see anything on the bottom, you go ahead and take another taste. I don't need to pour quite as big a taste as I did last time. A little more. That's pretty good. It's getting there. You could probably do another tablespoon. I think that's about all I have left, but it's strawberry wine should be sweet. So yeah, looks like another tablespoon plus just a little extra. We're gonna go ahead and add it all in there. Well, almost 3, about 2 3/4. I think that'll be good. I don't think we were super close just yet. So then you stir it again and taste again. So, all right, let's give that another little taste. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. That brought it up just enough. Could maybe go a little more, but as I said, it's the last of my sweetener. Got to order some more. So unless I can dig some up, you can use different things. There's allulose. There is, they're all different non-fermentables, kind of like stevia, although I don't like to use stevia. That is it for sweetening. The next step we'll do is rack this to our bottles. So I'll get set up for that and we'll rack the bottles next. All right, next step is to bottle. Got our wine elevated again, got our auto siphon sanitized and hooked back up. We need to put our bottling wand on the other end of the tube. And the bottling wand, this one's stainless steel, you can get them in plastic too. It's got a spring-loaded valve on the end, a spring valve that helps control the flow of the wine when you're bottling. When the stem valve is depressed, the wine flows. When you let up, it stops. So you don't have to worry about using hose clamps or crimping or making a mess or anything like that. You see, we got our bottles sanitized. You can see bubbles in there, possibly. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that's okay. That's just the sanitization liquid. It is food safe, human safe, so that little bit won't dilute the wine or anything like that, so not any significant amount. One thing I want to mention, when you're using your sanitizer, if you have plastic or rubber items, you don't want to leave them in there too terribly long, because the Star San is a mildly acidic, and it can degrade your plastics and your rubber items. So you want to make sure and pull them out after a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes. Glass doesn't really matter so much. Still got my my glass tube and my other glass items in there, so I'll get that out. So we are ready to bottle, and same process, only we're going into a bottle rather than fermenter. And I'm going to use my clip so that it holds on to the auto siphon a little better. I'm going to take the filter cap off the bottom. I should have done that before, but there isn't any leaves or any measurable leaves in there, so we want to get as much as we can out of the pitcher. So we'll just go all the way down with that, and then we'll start into our bottles. And as I said, the stem valve when it's depressed, it allows the wine to flow. It's a little tricky with punted bottles. It has the dimple on the bottom. You have to get your stem right on the tip of that punt, otherwise it won't depress all the way, but with a little practice you can do it. It's really not a problem. So you need to depress the stem valve when you start the siphon, otherwise the siphon won't start. Same thing, 2 or 3 pumps to get it going, and then you just hold it down until your bottle gets just about to overflow. Right at the point where it's going to overflow, you pull it up, and when you take it out, the level will drop down about 1 inch or 2 because of displacement. So we'll just hold this down until the bottle fills. Probably should have a little taller bucket. The siphon goes faster if your pitcher is a little higher, but of course you don't want it clear up there because that's when accidents happen, but it could be a little higher. So we'll just wait till we get 1 or 2 of these. I won't make you watch me do all 5 of them. We should get 5. So, and then we're gonna cork after this. So we'll get them filled and then we'll move on to the next step. But as you can see, I think you can see that on the camera, the level is coming up. And when it gets to where it's about to overflow, pull it up, go just a hair more. Right about there. And when you pull it back out, the volume level drops all the way down to here. That's okay. You want to get it up into the neck at some point. And remember, a cork takes about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches. But the flow stops, as you can see. Then you bring your next bottle in and you do the same thing again. Set that aside before I knock it over. Bring some of my other bottles closer. It's good to get kind of staged before you start. That way you have everything right where you need it. You're not fumbling for things or knocking things over. But again, we'll watch this one as it gets close to the top. And you can see the volume level just coming up, and it's just about to overflow. We'll just give it right there, and when you pull it out, that level drops back down to here. So that is just about the right level. We're going to be just a little bit, probably going to be real close here. I don't think we're going to have any extra. Once that's done, hopefully with what's left in the hose, we'll get up into the neck of the bottle. If it's not, we'll drink that one first. I have my daughter here and she's grinning. She's thinking she might drink it today. So she's helping me with the cameras. All right, so we didn't quite get up as high as I'd like. I could just cap it, and then in a few days when the other half gallon that we have is clear, that's too much trouble. We'll just drink this one. So I'll cork it and put it in the fridge, and you know, we'll be all right. Once we get these corked, we will put them in our bottle bunker, what I call it, just to make sure that if there is any residual fermentation and it builds up too much pressure and blows the cork, or if we have a damaged bottle, you want to inspect your bottles real good, make sure there are no cracks or chips, which I've done, but you want to put them in the bunker for about a week or 2. I usually go a couple weeks, and just to make sure we don't have an explosion, a bottle bomb. If we do, it's contained within the bottle bunker, and it's just a big plastic tote with a lid that has locking handles on it. So okay, so we'll take a break here to reconfigure and get our corker up on the counter and get our corks ready, and we'll be right back. All right, so we are set up for corking. We've got our corker standing here. It's a stand corker. Normally I have it a little lower. Top of this is probably out of the frame, but and make sure I don't get too high to hit the ceiling fan, but it'll be fine. One thing I wanted to remind you that I always keep notes, as we've been talking about. So I want to record what we've done today, today's date, and we took another gravity reading and it was 0.992. It hadn't moved. We racked to a pitcher and we back sweetened with, I'm going to call it 3 tablespoons of Anthony's erythritol. And there are the puppies. They're excited too. So we got our notes. We've got our corker. We've got our bottles filled. As you can see here, I've got 5 corks floating in. I just took some of the sanitizing solution, the Star San solution, and you want to soak them for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. They've been going about 5 minutes. It helps to sanitize them, of course, but also moistens them a little bit, gets them get a little bit of moisture into the cork so that it will seal a little better. Obviously, when you put them in the bottle bunker, they're going to be upright, so you want a little moisture in your corks. And then when you finally store them, if you store them in a wine rack, generally they're laying on their side. So that is so it keeps the cork moist. So let's get one started here. If you don't have a stand corker like this, they also make handheld corkers. You basically put your cork into the handheld, you put it over, and it just crimps it on. But I got this on Marketplace for like, I don't know, 25, 50 bucks, something like that. But so what you do is you drop your cork into the top, you press down on the spring-loaded base, and you let it go up into the slot there, and then you just pull down on the handle, and it presses the cork in. That one's going a little deep, so I need to adjust it a little bit, just about a half a turn or so. Go to our next one. Grab another cork. You want the cork to be about as flush with the top as you can, maybe just a little bit below the surface of the top of the bottle. Still a little low. We'll go another half a turn. Down too low is better than up too high, I think. So it's not super important, but put another one down. There we go. That's pretty good. That's almost perfectly flush. I'm going to have a bottling day coming up here very soon. I've got about 4 gallons of different wines that I made that didn't make it to video. So we're going to have a bottling day. As you can see, this is very quick and easy with the stand type corker. You can do, I'll probably have 20 bottles that day, plus anything else I might make between now and then. And there you go. And now you can see the level of the wine level in the bottle. There's not a lot of space there, except ours, this one that was a little low, but that is acceptable. It's about 1.25 inches, as long as it's up in the neck. As you can see, the top of that surface level is there's very little surface area for oxidization. So these will go in the bottle bunker for a couple of weeks. So there you have it. We've got 5 full bottles of strawberry wine made from fresh strawberries, and we still have almost half a gallon, not quite ready to bottle, but that'll probably make 2 more bottles. As always, thanks for tuning in to Smoking and Drinking. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. And as always, Prost!